Welcome to Barnstable Today. I'm Nick Cortez. Just a reminder that full-length meetings, special events, and every program we air here on Channel 18 can be viewed online. You can find it all in the town's video archives at town.barnstable.ma.us. The Barnstable Citizens Advisory Committee, the group that's studying the myriad issues surrounding nutrient loading in our watersheds, met this past Monday evening here at Town Hall. Each CAC meeting usually features presentations from members of the scientific community on topics ranging from the effectiveness of various types of nitrogen removal systems to the Mass Estuaries Project, a huge collection of data on the health of a number of water bodies on Cape Cod that ultimately plays a large role in the development of the total maximum daily nitrogen loads that we hear so much about. The latter was in focus at Monday's meeting when Dr. Brian Howes, one of the chief authors of the Mass Estuaries Project, took the CAC through the issues that the project strives to address and the factors that it measures when determining the health of various watersheds.
The primary goal in this is nutrient loading. You know that. It's nitrogen's a nutrient that we're focused on. We do a lot of things, but it's really just looking at nitrogen management. But in doing that, we always talk about nitrogen management. The estuary, what a lot of people also don't get, and as a little add, is that we also look at the nutrient status of various of the ponds in the town, the freshwater ponds. And the only reason I bring that up, there's been news that, well, the ponds are being ignored. Well, in fact, the ponds aren't being ignored. We've delineated the watersheds to all of the major ponds within the region. We have set up 10 years ago a water quality monitoring program with the towns and the Cape Cod Commission where we monitor almost 200 ponds every summer, and for the last 10 years that data is made available to every town and has been every year since then, and it is used in these reports. So the concept of what nitrogen does when we look at the impacts of increasing nitrogen, the reason in red are eelgrass beds and benthic canal communities those are the primary habitat issues that fall under the Clean Water, how the state is applying the Clean Water Act. The loss of eelgrass beds and the restructuring in a negative way of the animal communities that live in the bottoms of the bays that are the food chain, form the base of the food chain for the bay, for offshore fisheries, for many avian fauna, for a variety. Plus we eat things that live on the bottom like scallops and soft-shell clams and cohogs. All of those things, when they're impaired, then the state feels that we have to have a TMDL. Well, the only way we can restore these is through the work that you folks are doing, really, which is to do nitrogen management. But nitrogen management is not just removing septic systems or dealing with stormwater. Nitrogen management is a combination of how much you put in and how quickly you get it out. As you'll see tonight, sometimes just increasing tidal exchange will get you where you want to go. You don't have to do any nitrogen management. In some cases, doing that will have no effect, and really what you're going to have to do is you have to deal with the sources, which is the third one. But sometimes what you can do is you can manipulate where the nitrogen goes into the environment, such as in West Falmouth Harbor. Moving the wastewater treatment plant discharge point has an effect on how much reaches the bay. Sometimes having discharges above ponds or wetlands, since they take up nitrogen without impairment, that changes the nitrogen gets to the bay without you doing anything extra, but merely making sure the load is going in the right spot. To get a threshold, though, from nitrogen, we do it the classic way that every single TMDL, every ecologist has done. Well, I can't say since there's been ecology, because I think it started around 1950 or so. It doesn't sound very impressive. But in reality, the way it's done is you look at areas that have high habitat quality. You look at areas that are just becoming impaired, areas that are clearly over the limit, areas that are way beyond the limit. And ideally areas that started in one area and you monitored the change as nitrogen changed over time and looked at as nitrogen levels changed, what happened to the habitats. And you say, aha, things start to change when it goes from that concentration to that concentration. It's a little more tricky than that. I mean, trust me, everything's more tricky than that, but like I don't want to know exactly what my accountant does in a talk. You can ask me, I'll answer, but I'm not going to burden you all with it right now. The trick is it deals with the water depth, the strength of the tides, the flushing. Mediate this statement. But basically, you're looking at sites that are healthy, sites that aren't healthy, and saying at this nitrogen level, sites are healthy, at this site, They aren't. Again, no modeling. So we have a really good idea for some of these estuaries at what the tipping point is. And then this should make you happy, we push it up to the limit. We all know that if you knock the nitrogen levels down in these to just, 5% over Nantucket Sound or 10% over Nantucket Sound, which is the way it used to be done, things would be great. They'd be fantastic. We'd all go broke because it's almost an unattainable goal, and you'd be trying to get an unattainable goal, and you can imagine what that would be like. But basically, what we say is, well, no, we're not going to take this, background plus 5% or background plus 10%. We're going to say, what does the data say from 3 bays show for 3 bays? And in those cases, we've found that we're about 3 times more allowable nitrogen going into these systems than you would take by some of the earlier approaches that were used for TMDLs, or in the thought of TMDLs for management. So that's a lot more going in than earlier models. The mission of the Estuaries Project is to minimize soaring in management. It is not to enhance it, increase it, promote it. It is to minimize it. It is to keep the costs by allowing you to push right up to your limit and not beyond. Then that means that you're allowed to put in as much as you can and only manage what's over that.
After running through how the Mass Estuaries Project helps to shape how TMDLs are determined and illustrating it with a number of case studies on Barnstable's estuaries, Dr. Howes presented to the CAC the possible approaches to removing excess nitrogen from our water and meeting the TMDLs set forth by the DEP.
After we get done with our analysis studies, the TMDLs are written. The TMDLs are written by DEP. They have some things in them that are not in our analysis, our scientific analysis. Okay, it's part of the procedure. Sometimes there's other analyses that EPA wants. Ours is focused on nitrogen and how in your specific estuary. The approaches that you can use, there are hydrodynamic approaches. We use those all the time. Talk about one in a second. The one that's underutilized at present is natural attenuation alternatives, which is either to locate a nitrogen source in a place that removes removal by natural systems during transport, or in some cases to restore aquatic systems to full removal. And then we have the standard watershed loading alternatives, which are soaring or just changing. In the case of Falmouth, West Falmouth Harbor, they didn't soar West Falmouth Harbor, they merely improved the treatment. They improved the treatment to the level where West Falmouth Harbor, if there's no more development in that harbor, the system, and no more flow to the treatment plant, or only about a 20% increase in flow to the treatment plant, that system will be restored. They didn't lay any sewers, they had a treatment plant, it was discharging a very high level of effluent, and they merely upgraded the plant. And that will restore, they will meet their TMDL.
If you're curious about the specific case studies contained in Dr. Howe's presentation to the CAC, we'd strongly encourage you to watch the full version of Monday's meeting, which you can find on the town's website. If you're feeling ambitious and you'd like to explore the Mass Estuaries Project for yourself, all available data can be found at www.oceanscience.net/estuaries. Just one meeting left for this week. The Barnstable Town Council convenes tonight at 7 o'clock in the Town Hall hearing room. One programming note as well, remember next Tuesday, the day after the Columbus Day holiday, we'll be airing the first in our 4-part interview with Barnstable's own American Idol, Siobhan Magnus. You can see that on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday's edition of Barnstable Today. The 4th and final part will air on Friday's edition of Barnstable This Morning. Well, that's all for now. I'm Nick Cortese, and we'll see you next time on Barnstable Today.